See, in Freud, um, we have a boy child and a girl child. The one who is born with a male body is a boy child. The one who is born with a female body is a girl child. And they then have two sets of relationships. The boy child will have a relationship of attraction, desire for the mother, and aggression, hostility towards the father. The girl child will have attraction, desire for the father, is the assumption over here, and hostility, um, aggression towards the mother. So there is heterosexual attraction and homoerotic hostility. So this is how that framework operates. Now, how does Bose's framework operate? In Bose's framework, we are not starting with the boy child or the girl child. Biologically, we may start with the boy child and the girl child, but psychoanalytically, we cannot start with the boy child or the girl child. That four-legged mammal called the infant knows only one gender, the mother's gender, and hence is an identified feminine entity. Both biological boy child and biological girl child are girl child. So the four-legged mammal is like a kangaroo in the mother kangaroo's pouch, is like a mother identified, maternal feminine identified bodily entity which is tied to the mother's body, breast to be more precise, and is a mere appendage to the mother's body, just an extension of the mother's body. Okay, it's just that you have cut the umbilical cord, but psychologically, psychoanalytically, the umbilical cord has not been cut, and the baby or the infant, the four-legged mammal, more precisely, is a kind of an extension of the mother's body. Now the question to Bose is a twofold question. One is a question Althusser or Lacan raised much later, actually. Um, how does the four-legged mammal become a human being? And how does the four-legged mammal, more than the human being, what is important is that become a sexuated human being? How does the four-legged mammal become either like the father or like the mother or something between the father and mother, etc., etc.? How does the four-legged mammal become a sexuated human being is the psychoanalytic question. Now, when you try to answer this question, Bose attempts to answer this question. I'm not saying he is correct. Okay. Bose attempts to answer this question not through the perspective of possession, who has the phallus and who doesn't have it. The one who has the phallus has fear of losing it, hence castration anxiety. And the one who doesn't have it has envy for not having it. Okay. So there is neighbor's envy and owner's fear. Owner's pride also, but for Freud, psychoanalytically, what is more important is not the pride, but the fear. Pride is an adolescent, kind of showmanship, perhaps, but what is deeper inside is fear of losing power, fear of losing control, etc., fear of losing even an erection in an older age. So in that sense, the perspective is one of possession. What Girindra Shekhar Bose, what later Professor Kakar also does, is that they move it towards the perspective of identification. It is identification with the mother initially, and from that mother identified position, looking at the father. Again, there is an assumption that the four-legged mammal will look more at the mother and will look less at the father, but will nevertheless look at the father because that is the family unit or the familial unit. Familiar and familial unit, actually. And the assumption over here is that the four-legged mammal will become a sexuated human subject through the connections it is going to make. And I'm saying it deliberately now. It is going to make with initially the mother and then the father, who is the adjacent co-traveler over here. He's there on the front seat of human sex subjectivity with the mother, with the mother. Um, so the infant is seen through the framework or the perspective or the paradigm of identification, mother identification, and from the mother's vantage point, looking at the father. And when you look at the father from the mother's vantage point, you have a certain experience. And this process can also change. You can look at the mother thereafter from the father's vantage point once you become father identified also. Now, this is not a permanent state because it is a moment of mother identification. It is also a moment of father identification. And when you are mother identified and you are looking at the father, you are looking at the father in a certain way, you are looking at the relationship in a certain way, and when you are father identified and you are looking at the mother, you are looking at the relationship in a certain way. And this is not a permanent position, this is a seesaw. This may change. Today something happened at home, mother supported you and you became more mother identified. Okay, so it is dependent on unconscious feelings. It is dependent on unconscious emotions. It is dependent on affective states. Um, and that kind of identification then puts you into a relationship with the other. Let us call it the other over here, the sexuated other. Two significant sexuated others in the life of the four-legged mammal are the mother and the father, or the maternal feminine continuum, and maybe there is a masculine continuum as well, which we encounter in our infancy. And this moment, it's just a moment, it's not a permanent state, it's not a complex like Oedipus complex. Okay, it's a moment, and in this moment you are momentarily experiencing, for example, desire for the father. You are momentarily experiencing desire for the mother. That is the Oedipus point. The Oedipus language is being used over here. One may not use it as well, actually. There is no compulsion to use that language. But if one is using that language, and Bose is using that language, Professor Kakar is also using that language. So they're not giving up the originary language, but reordering that relationship significantly. And it is this moment of desire for the father in the girl child and this moment of desire for the mother in the boy child, which is contingent, emergent, fleeting, a moment, is the Oedipus point, where there is, as if, we have to put the as if, an Oedipus wish. Um, the subject then, the sexuated subject that is being born, is to be understood not simply through the perspective of desire, through the perspective of whether the subject desires the father or the subject desires the mother. Desire is not the only angle. There is a deeper desire. If we want to use the language of desire, desire to become mother and desire to become father. And for the boy child, the desire to become mother is as if the desire or the wish to be feminine, not female, perhaps. Okay. That language needs a little modification, and there is need for rewriting, perhaps. Just that there is need for rewriting Freud, rewriting Lacan, rewriting Winnicott, um, um, uh, and not make them infallible figures who can make no mistake. Because that then becomes, religious, theological, um, and the desire um, to the deeper desire to become. So becoming becomes a very, very important angle in Bose and Professor Kakar's work. Desiring to become, becoming to be or not to be a boy child or to be a feminine continuum, to be with the maternal feminine continuum, or to be with the masculine